Welcome in, belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you, who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 63, a Week 9 preview. And before we get any further along, let's make sure that everybody is in the room.
Wingmen assemble!
All right, now that everyone is here, I want to offer my apologies and say thank you for your understanding for the wonky schedule this week. I'm sorry to get this episode out a little later, but there are pros and cons to that happening. The cons are, of course, you weren't able to listen to this show on the way to work on Friday morning, but the pros are we have a lot more clarity when it comes to player news and notes and practice reports. All right, guys, let's get into our news and notes. All right. The bye weeks are back, and we have several top players out this week due to their bye weeks. We have the Broncos, the Lions, the Jaguars, and the 49ers are all off this week due to their team's bye week. And this is obviously going to be devastating to Lionize, our new hottest team in the league, as he has several team players out on bye this week. Now let's set the schedule for this weekend's games. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that the clocks are going to fall back this week, so there's going to be a time change. So just keep that in mind when you're making your last-minute decisions. It actually gives you extra time, but I don't want anything to sneak up on you. All right, let's start with our Monday night matchup as we have the LA Chargers are traveling to Jersey to take on the New York Jets, and that game is at 8:15 p.m. On Sunday night, we have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati at 8:20 p.m., and this game is going to be an emotional one because this was the site of last year's game that was called due to Damar Hamlin's cardiac arrest incident on the field. So this is going to be an emotional game for most of the players in that stadium and for the NFL fans at large. We hope that good health to all players in that game and any game for that matter, but this one's going to be a little more emotional for a lot of the players. Also a reminder that the NFL is traveling back to Europe as there's going to be a Sunday morning game at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time in Germany as the Miami Dolphins are battling the Kansas City Chiefs. As for the Thursday night game, we had the Tennessee Titans travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers, and we had 5 players in our managers' lineups on Thursday night. Amazing Spidey had newly acquired Derrick Henry in his lineup, while King George had Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson in her lineup. And Cubert's Rage had the Steelers defense going for his team, while Team B had 2 players going, as he had a pair of Titans, including the Banana Man, Will Levis, and Nuke Hopkins. All right, guys, as for some other player news and practice reports, this first one goes out explicitly to Team B as Cade York, the kicker, has been signed by the New York Giants in wake of the Graham Gano knee injury. So this has everything. So this has Team B written all over it, as we know how much he loves the kicker, Cade York. We know how much he loves New York Giants. I expect this player to be picked up by Team B any moment. All right, we have Kyler Murray, the Arizona quarterback, has been practicing in full. He is not on the injury report, but he has not been activated from the PUP list. So we're not sure if he's going to play this week or not. I will let you know. My guess is that the team is going to keep this close to the vest, whether he's playing or not. So even if he is going to play, you're not going to know till an hour and a half before the game. So I would say it's 50-50, but his window is going to be closing down by next week. So if he's not activated by next week's game, he's going to miss the remainder of the season. All right, LA Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua has been practicing in a limited fashion and is trending towards playing. And LA Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford has been missing practice all week with a thumb injury, and he is trending towards missing week 9. The only reason I say that is that they have a bye on week 10. So by missing 1 week, he gets 2 weeks of rest. And of course, that's going to severely limit the potentials for Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp for their fantasy outcomes. All right, we have Cleveland quarterback and newly acquired player for Lionize, Deshaun Watson, has been working with the first team, and he is expected to start this week. This looks like a move from Team B as a sabotage. All right, we have the Buffalo quarterback. Josh Allen has been practicing in full all week. He has no injury designation, and he is good to go for week 9. This one, personally, I feel a little bad about. I did not know this was coming, but Houston running back Dameon Pierce is expected to miss week 9. Of course, he was part of the trade package that was sent out to Tampa Brady. The only solace I have on a personal guilty note is I don't think he was planning on playing him anyway, Dameon Pierce for Tampa Brady. So hopefully he gets healthy soon and will be a viable option for him later in the season. But I was not trying to trade damaged goods. I promise you that. Also, Washington wide receiver Curtis Samuel has been ruled out for this weekend's game, as has Atlanta wide receiver Drake London. He has already been ruled out. He is not going to play. And this next batch of players is all King George, as she has so many injuries on her team, mostly questionable, but you're not sure which way they're going to go. Another King George player, a Green Bay running back, Aaron Jones, is still dealing with his hamstring injury. He has been practicing on a limited basis, but he is expected to play, but he's not reaching the potential that you would expect he would go for, as he's been limited by this injury all year long. Also, Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Josh Palmer has been missing practice all week. He gutted out the game last week, but he was not himself. And being that his game's on Monday night, the news reports are going to be a little late because they don't have to tell you all the stuff until Saturday and Sunday. So just keep that in mind. I would say he's 50-50, and if you're asking me, I'd say it's more like 51% he's not going to play. Another player also on King George's team, Indianapolis wide receiver Josh Downs, was added to the injury report during the week on Thursday, but he did return to practice in full on Friday and is expected to play. As for Miami running back Raheem Mostert, he's been getting the Veterans Day off in the middle of the week for the last several weeks with a mild ankle injury, but he is good to go, and he is going to suit up in the battle at Germany. Miles Sanders has not been ruled out. He is not on the injury list, but Chuba Hubbard has been declared the starter going into week 9. And Las Vegas quarterback Aiden O'Connell will take over the starting job for the Raiders, but Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to be active as the backup. All right, guys, let's find out who's playing who in this week's matchups.
I want you. I want the stallion.
Down. Put.
This week's matchups.
All right, guys, we start off. We have a pair of 5-3 teams. The even division leading Amazing Spidey at 5-3 is playing against Jimerson's Red Sox Nation, who is also at 5-3. And this is a monster game the winner of this game will solidify himself into a playoff run, while the loser is going to be a little scared going forward, needing to get a couple wins to get back on track. These two teams made a trade this week, and they're going to put it to the test right away. Our next game is Reggie's Lion Eyes at 3-5, our hottest team in the league, but he's going to be devastated by bye week replacements, and he's going up against Katie's King George and our number 1 overall seed, who's at 6-2. Our next game might be the most important game of the week, as we have Alex's They Took Our Jobs at 4-4 up against Ken's Tampa Brady, who is also 4-4. These two teams are tied for our last playoff spot, the 5th seed. And right now, Ken's Tampa Brady holds that tiebreaker by 2 points in overall scoring for the entire season. Our next game is Paul's Cubert Rage up against Nick's Waddle Away, where Paul's Cubert Rage is at 5-3, while Nick's Waddle Away is at 3-5. There's also a divisional matchup. So this is a big game for Nick's Waddle Away. We have Corey's Mac Daddy 2s at 3-5 up against Bernie's Team B at 2-6.
I'm Cuban, B.
Yes, Cuban B.
Mac Daddy 2s is on a 2-game winning streak, but Team B needs this game or his season is going to be almost up in smoke. All right, guys, let's check in on our waiver wire, as we had 6 waiver claims this week with 3 NFL players receiving multiple bids. Let's start out with our highest priced waiver acquisition. Gus Edwards went to Tampa Brady for $22, and he outbid Lion Eyes, who put a $16 bid, and Cubert's Rage, who put a $4 bid in. Our next player, Jahan Dotson, went for $8 to Lion Eyes, who outbid Cubert's Rage, $2 bid. Josh Dobbs, who was traded from Arizona to the Vikings on the trade deadline on Halloween, went to Tampa Brady for $7, outbidding Lion Eyes' $5 bid. But as a consolation, Lion Eyes picked up Deshaun Watson for $3. We had Rashid Shaheed went to Red Sox Nation for $3, and Matt Gay went to King George for $1. All right, guys, let's check in on our power rankings.
I have the power!
By the power of Grayskull.
I'm living in it, no one man should have all that power.
Wingman Power Rankings.
All right, guys, let's check in on our power rankings. I didn't have it memorized, but I know that Spidey dropped down to 4th before the trades, and now he's back up to number 1 in the power rankings, while They Took Our Jobs is holding steady at 2nd place here. Red Sox Nation is in 3rd place in power rankings, while King George is in 4th. Cubert Rage is in 5th. Mac Daddy 2s is moving up in 6th. Tampa Brady has slid down to 7th, while Lion Eyes is in 8th. Team B is 9th, and Waddle Away is bringing up the rear in 10th place. Friendly reminder that all this means is projected points going forward means nothing. For example, I was projected to win last week by 10 points and lost by 10. So that just kind of it's just trying to show you how Yahoo values your team, not what's going to happen at all. All right, guys, I am pleased to bring into you a new segment called Wingman Fantasy Football Mailbag.
You've got mail.
You've got mail. Wingman Fantasy Football.
Mailbag! All right, guys, I hope you like that imaging and graphic. Of course, you can tell I've been busy making all these little intros. All right, so how this is going to work, we're just going to take these from comments from anywhere on the wingmanentertainment.net platform here. So our first one, I don't know if you recall, when Mr. Bernie, Team B, and I were having a conversation at one of our At the Bar episodes. We were struggling. He brought up a receiver, and we couldn't get the name off the tip of our tongue there. He was mentioning a receiver that was very talented, had a huge upside, but couldn't quite get himself together back then with the more stringent cannabis rules. He was couldn't beat those. And the player that he was referring to is Josh Gordon. He was a star with the Browns, then finished off, I think, with the Chiefs. He played. I think he also played for the Patriots. He was bouncing around, would play a couple games, either get hurt or be suspended again. But Josh Gordon was the player that we were thinking about there when we were talking about a off-the-field struggles, overcoming an on-the-field star. All right, our next mailbag entry here is from Reggie O, and this one was left on the Yahoo Fantasy Football page in the message board. And the question here is, what's the point of having divisions if division records mean nothing? Well, this thing was posted 9 days ago, and this was after Lion Eyes got his second win of the season and was 150 points behind everybody else in the league. And I guess he thought that he should have been put at the top of the standings. I don't know why he would think that. I mean, yes, you win 2 division games, you should just move right to the top, right? Even if you only have 2 wins. But the division record does matter. And right now, Reggie, you are only 2 games out, and you're ahead in division record. You just got to keep plugging along, and that will mean a big deal when it comes to winning the division. Our friendly reminder, just to be clear here, divisional records only matter for the division leader. Once you are no longer in play to get the division leader, the tiebreaker is for points. So it's only for division winners does the division record matter as a tiebreaker. Everyone else, every other tiebreaker for every other spot in the playoffs is points. So Reggie, still got a long way to go. I appreciate the mailbag comment, and keep those comments coming. All right, on to our next mailbag entry here. This one comes from Bernie. I also posed the question, when Calvin Ridley has a rough game, should I call him Calvin Risky or Calvin Dudley? And 100% of the respondents said Calvin Risky was the way to go. So I thank you for all of those who commented there. You know who you are. So guys, feel free to leave a comment on any of the pages of wingmanentertainment.net. That could be wingmanentertainment.net/WFF or /gameday/podcast. I get notifications on any page that gets a comment. So feel free to leave a comment on there, and we'll put you in on the next mailbag. All right, guys. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for understanding the wonky schedule this week. And I would like to thank all of you guys for watching and or listening to Wingman Fantasy Football, the league podcast. Once again, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and of course, wingmanentertainment.net/WFF. Also, I have some big news. We now have a YouTube channel. I'm of two minds of this and using this method to share the content, but for the time being, our channel is at youtube.com/@Wingman Fantasy Football, no spaces. So there you go. That's youtube.com/@Wingman Fantasy Football. Please do subscribe. And I'm not saying this to be a parrot, but YouTube really does bury the content on their search algorithm. I typed in all the words that are in the actual thing, and it did not show up unless I go right to the website. So once you get it, or if you can find it through that website, youtube.com/@Wingman Fantasy Football, no spaces. Just go ahead and subscribe so you can, if you want to see any of the content on that channel. And I appreciate that. Again, I'm not sure. I'm of two minds about using that platform. But for now, we're going to do it and see how it goes. So with that being said, until we meet again, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.